Are you listening? Damn.
Going to the body or something, but headshots are not something I mess around with.
No.
So I had to check him really quick and get him to loosen up and settle down.
Yeah, and there's many stories like that. And there's a guy, you guys were both in the gym that day, but he's going to remain nameless just because it's been so long. I really don't remember his name. I think it was Colin or Connor. But I remember he brought his girlfriend in. This is back when we were still Crystal Fight Club. And he tried to pick the smallest guy in the room, the guy he knew he could beat up, and tried to beat up on him. And for the whole round, impress his girlfriend. And then all of a sudden, I remember looking over and he's grabbing his bag like it's time to go. And I just remember Jim go, "Hey, nah, you got one more round in you?" And he goes, "Oh, well, I was going to leave." He goes, "Nah, I feel like you got one more round in you." But I just remember Jim just came in and just gave it to him, had to put the enforcer role on because, like I said, the guy, he was just looking to be a prick in front of his girlfriend, try to show off a little bit. And that's the type of stuff that it's never called for.
I remember another one too, where me, Jim, and Roberto were in the gym. I believe it was just us three. It was in a morning practice, and some guy comes in there and says, "Yeah, my buddy was up here the other day." We all knew who he was. He was a light-skinned dude with braids, but the guy that came in was the light-skinned guy's buddy. And he was telling us how he said, "Yeah, he came up here and he beat up a few of your guys." And you're like, "When was this? Who did he beat up? Which one of our guys?" And he came into the gym, got beat up, but probably bragged to all of his friends that he was going to go to the gym that day. He got beat up, had a mark underneath his eye, and said, "Well, I got some licks in." They're telling everybody, "Well, you should have seen what I did to them," And then his buddy comes up and reconfirms that this dude's just literally making up a story. Like, guys will leave the gym and try to tell other people that I beat him up and it was easy, or that I held him in a headlock for 15 minutes and he couldn't get out. People are that delusional.
If it was the streets, I would have gouged his eyes out.
Yeah. Oh man. That's another thing I don't really get to. They say, well, if it was in the streets, my boys would have helped me out and we would have took him out, And I'm like, well, the thing is that the fighter you were fighting probably hangs out with 2 or 3 other fighters or 2 people that know what they're doing. What if they jumped in?
Yeah.
Do you think about that?
Or not even, or go ahead, Jim.
That's one argument that I never understood. You have your guys that are in those martial arts for self-defense, kung fu or Wing Chun, and so they'll insult the MMA fighter and they'll say, well, if it was a real fight, I'd hit him in the balls or I'd poke him in the eyes, and they go. I'm thinking, well, the MMA fighter, in the MMA fights, you're not allowed to do that, but don't you think they could also kick you in the balls and poke you in the eyes? The fact that they don't do it in their sport doesn't mean that they couldn't do it also in the fight, in the street fight, but then also beat your ass with the other stuff that they know, like shooting a double or, their other high percentage moves that they do for MMA. So when Kung Fu guy or the Wing Chun guy says, "Well, I'd beat him in a street fight because I could do this and this," but yeah, he can do that also.
At least the Wing Chun guy has at least some training. My favorite's the guy in the bar that says, "Well, no, in the streets it'd be different." Well, no, in the streets that guy still knows how to beat your ass.
You know what would be different if it was in the streets? And this is just me talking. I've never done this. But when you're knocked out cold and your body is completely limp and you are completely defenseless, I can break anything on your body I want. While you're laying down, I could put you in an arm bar, break your arm. You wake up not even knowing that you were in an arm bar. I could do the same thing with your leg, your knee, everything. You could wake up with just a bunch of broken fingers, and then I say, "Hey, you want to go for round 2?" There's a delusional thought with people who have won a few street fights. "Oh yeah, you beat up Tony in 8th grade. Good for you." I beat up a trained professional multiple times. Get out of my face, brah.
I remember when this is back when I was in high school. So
In Nam.
yeah, no, back in the 80s when I was in high school. But this is before MMA was on the scene. But I was training with a couple of guys. One of them was my former brother-in-law. He was into praying mantis kung fu, and then the other one was into he was like a high-ranking guy in Wing Chun, and I respect any art has certain things that work, like I'm a big fan of the sidekick, and I've told you guys this many times. I don't know why that's not used more. And I know it's more of a karate move or like a taekwondo move. Kung Fu does it, but I think a sidekick is a very good attack. I don't, like I said, I know that Wonder Boy Thompson uses it, and I think he uses it effectively. And so, like I said, I don't wonder why that is not used more. But so every art has some good qualities to it. But I even back before MMA, I knew that wrestling was like a dominant art, because like when I would spar with the Wing Chun expert, and he would be in here at close range trying to hit, and I just do an arm drag into a double leg and take him off of his feet and drop him. And like back then, the 80s, they didn't think these martial arts didn't have a lot of respect for wrestlers, because before we were going to sparring, they were acting like, oh, I'm going to be able to punch this guy or kick this guy. But as soon as it was in close range, because the praying mantis kung fu would also do these things up real close, and it was just a wrestler's arm drag into a double leg and then tying him up on the ground. Like even back in the 80s, I knew that wrestling was a dominant art, because you can neutralize a lot of other people's things just by taking them down and pinning them.
One of the funny,
you're back.
yeah, one of the funny things that I've learned, or just paid attention to from the World Star Hip Hop videos, like the fight compilations. We would start off watching those, I don't know, 10 years ago, 11 years ago. It started when I was in high school, and all the way through, like, you see the slow progression. Like, as soon as guys would grab each other and they go to the ground, no, you guys got to get back up. Some people say he's cheating because he keeps taking the guy down. As MMA has grown more and more popular, you see a little bit more ground techniques even being used in street fights by guys who have no idea how to do an armbar, how to do a triangle, but you see them attempting it, and it's just like, okay, now people are starting to get it. People, when guys are fighting, they're like counting the 30 seconds and then breaking them up. Like, after 30 seconds of no action, we're going to stand you guys up. And I just think it's hilarious that it's actually getting to that point where people know that they need a ground game. You need it. Whether it's jiu-jitsu or wrestling, even in the street, you need to know some ground techniques, brah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just your average MMA fight, like out of 10 fights, how many of those 10 fights go to the ground? Probably 8 or 9.
9.5.
Is that what it is? Probably.
To quote Damien, 7.
Yeah. I know 7. I know 7.
7.
Oh my God. That guy. I don't even.
Damn. Yeah. Yeah.